Have you ever felt an invisible shift stirring within you? It's not something you can easily explain to others. Not a dramatic event, not a visible change, but something intimate and unshakable. It's as if there's a quiet vibration moving through your core, urging you into a new way of being. You no longer feel like the person you were yesterday, yet the person you're becoming hasn't fully taken form either. You're caught in a sacred in-between, a space where the old no longer fits and the new has yet to fully unfold. It's not dramatic. On the outside, things may look just as they did last week. But inside, you know something is reordering itself in silence. You're not imagining it. Those passing thoughts, strange dreams, or subtle emotional waves are signs, whispers from the soul letting you know that change is underway. You're in a sacred transition, not because something's been taken from you, but because something greater is approaching. It's not about striving anymore. It's not about pushing for more. It's about becoming who you need to be in order to receive what's already destined for you. And that shift begins in silence, in the small things you can't explain but can't ignore. You are being carved open to hold something vast, something meant for your next evolution. The first sign often arrives quietly. You feel yourself drifting from people or places that once felt like home. But there's no drama in it, no arguments, just an internal departure that unfolds naturally. It's not rejection. It's not resentment. It's a soft turning away from what no longer feeds your spirit. You try to stay, to pretend, to keep it all stitched together, but you can't. Your soul has already stepped ahead, and it won't let you go backwards. And so you stand, straddling two versions of yourself, the one that once was and the one that is waiting to be born. Even if your mind doesn't fully grasp it yet, your heart already understands. You're not losing something, you're releasing it. What once served you now weighs you down. What once gave you life now quietly empties you. And so the universe gently pulls you away, not to hurt you, but to make space, because it cannot pour new wine into old vessels. And you are becoming new, whether you chose it consciously or not. This letting go isn't impulsive. It's not rebellion. It's a soul-led retreat. One day you simply stop explaining yourself. You no longer seek to justify the way you feel. There is no exit speech, no grand announcement. You just know this chapter is closed. The weight of old stories becomes too heavy to carry forward. And instead of resisting that truth, you surrender. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to stop clinging to things that no longer fit your spirit. This phase may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, but it is sacred. You are being stripped of what cannot cross the threshold with you. Not because it was bad, but because its purpose has been fulfilled. The spaces that once held you now confine you. The habits that once helped you now distract you. And somewhere deep inside, you understand, this isn't about abandonment. It's about alignment. Something greater is near, and your soul, wise, quiet, and unrelenting, has already begun to prepare. You may find yourself in moments where you feel the urge to withdraw without knowing exactly why. You'll cancel plans without guilt. You'll pull back from certain conversations or habits that once entertained you. And it's not because you're bitter or broke. It's because the space around you is being made sacred again. You're not isolating out of fear. You're creating stillness to listen more deeply to what is rising within. The detachment isn't loud. It's quiet and profound. And it happens not because something external pushed you, but because your internal compass has shifted. With this shift comes an inner peace you didn't expect. There's no celebration, no sudden breakthrough, just a knowing, like an inner exhale that says, this is done. Not in anger, not in haste, but in truth. You walk away not to run, but to release, because somewhere along the way, you stopped needing to be understood. You stopped needing applause. You started honoring the stillness over the noise. And in that honoring, you begin to see the world through new eyes. What once captivated you no longer holds power, and what once felt like home now feels like history. This detachment may feel like a loss, but in truth, it's preparation. You're not being abandoned. You're being made available. Everything that is fading is doing so for a reason. You are shedding layers that kept you small, not because they were wrong, but because your spirit has outgrown them. And the universe, in its wisdom, never calls you forward without first clearing the way. These empty spaces are not failures. They're invitations. Invitations to rest, to receive, to recalibrate. You may start to notice your decisions feel different too. You say no with more ease. You draw boundaries with grace, not defense. You choose solitude without shame, not from a place of pride, but from clarity. You no longer have the energy to maintain what doesn't align. You no longer force yourself to prove your worth. Through staying, you're learning that your peace is the proof, that your stillness is not stagnation, it's strategy, and that what doesn't flow effortlessly was never meant to be carried beyond this point. This shift in your energy isn't something others will always understand. Some may pull away. Some may question the change, but you won't feel the need to convince them, because you're no longer operating from scarcity. You're not looking to be chosen. You're not hustling for a seat at a table that was never yours to begin with. You are building a new table altogether, and this time, you're choosing who gets to sit beside you. Everything around you may still look the same, but make no mistake, within you, a reordering has begun. It's not noise, it's not chaos, it's divine restructuring. And though the process may feel strange at times, even heavy, you are not breaking. You are opening, not to be filled by just anything, but to be aligned with something greater, deeper, truer. And that alignment is not coming. It has already started. In you. Then, without warning, you begin to notice an unusual stillness. Plans pause. Projects stall. Invitations dry up. What once moved forward suddenly slows to a crawl. And in the beginning, this silence feels heavy. Like something is wrong. Like you've missed a step or taken a wrong turn. But soon you begin to realize that this isn't failure. It's a sacred stop. A moment of divine recalibration. The universe isn't punishing you. It's preparing you. And the only way to prepare deeply is through stillness. The world teaches us to hustle, to push, to force forward. But there is another way, a higher way. And that path often begins with nothing happening at all. Not because you are lazy, not because you lack purpose, but because what is coming is too important to be rushed. The most profound transformations don't arrive through speed. They arrive through stillness, through a sacred pause that allows your soul to rearrange itself into something stronger, wiser, more aligned. This pause can be uncomfortable. You might feel restless, anxious, like you should be doing more, fixing more, reaching harder. But you're not meant to fix anything right now. You're meant to become still enough to let something deeper rise. You're being asked to trust the invisible, to anchor in faith when there are no obvious signs. Because what's forming within you isn't instant. It's foundational. It requires time to settle into place. And in that sacred waiting, you're becoming the person who can hold what you've been asking for. At first, the stillness may feel like being stuck. Like life has hit pause on your dreams. You'll question your direction. You'll doubt your timing. But then, something begins to shift. Not on the outside, but within. You stop seeing the silence as a threat. You begin to see it as a gift. Not a void, but a womb. A space where something new is being conceived. Even if you can't yet see it. And suddenly, the stillness becomes a sanctuary. In that sanctuary, you begin to hear your own voice more clearly. You start to feel your own presence again. You realize how long you've been moving without listening. How often you've acted out of fear of standing still. And now, As everything slows, you come back to yourself, not to solve anything, but to remember something, that you don't have to chase what's meant for you. You simply have to become available to receive it. This sacred pause is not here to punish you. It's here to preserve you, because what's on its way cannot arrive in a chaotic environment. It needs clarity. It needs space. It needs someone who is not rushing, but ready. And you, through every breath of patience, every moment of presence, are becoming that person. The one who doesn't just hope for something great, but who is already living in alignment with it. As you surrender to the stillness, you notice something shifting inside your perception. The things you used to ignore suddenly seem important. The small, quiet moments start carrying meaning. Your awareness sharpens, not outwardly, but inwardly. You begin to sense that you're not just waiting for something to change, you are what's changing. You're not wasting time, you're gestating something sacred. The world may see stagnation, but your spirit knows this is construction. Brick by brick, truth by truth, your new self is being built from the inside out. You stop rushing into every opportunity. You no longer say yes, just to be busy. You begin to discern. Not every door is yours to walk through. Not every path is meant for your feet. You wait, not passively, but intentionally. You become selective about where your energy goes. You learn to rest without guilt, to sit without needing to prove your value through movement. And in that, your identity begins to root in being, not in doing. This awareness brings a powerful clarity. You stop mistaking stillness for stagnation. You understand that just because something is quiet doesn't mean it's empty. Sometimes the deepest transformations make no sound at all. And the changes happening within you now, this growth, this shedding, this alignment, they don't need to be seen to be real. The work is sacred because it is silent, and that silence is not abandonment. It's incubation. Then something beautiful happens. You stop reacting to everything. You stop allowing your emotions to be dragged by every shift in circumstance. You respond differently now. From groundedness, from knowing. Even your pain begins to transform. You let go with purpose, not with resistance. You release without needing to understand every detail, because your soul knows that what is being removed is making room for what will stay. You start to feel lighter, not because life has become easier, but because you're no longer carrying what doesn't belong. You stop clinging to relationships that don't expand you. You no longer grip onto plans just to feel secure. The false comforts begin to dissolve, and in their place, a strange peace begins to rise. A quiet faith in the unseen. A trust that even the things you cannot explain are guiding you somewhere meaningful. And here's the miracle. The pause you once feared has become your teacher. It has shown you that you don't need constant motion to evolve, that presence is power, that silence is healing, that in the space where nothing seems to be happening, everything is happening. And in honoring that space, you have become more than you were, not because you've acquired more, but because you've let go of what never served your becoming. Then something even more subtle begins to unfold. Your sensitivity intensifies. It's not just emotional, it's energetic. You begin picking up on things others miss. A shift in a room's energy, a flicker of unspoken emotion in someone's eyes. The way a place feels before a single word is said. You're not imagining it. You're not overreacting. You're simply tuning into a deeper frequency. And that frequency, once faint, now speaks to you clearly. It guides you, without words, without logic, straight to what aligns and away from what doesn't. This sensitivity may catch you off guard. You feel things more deeply. You notice inconsistencies faster. You sense the truth beneath the surface, even when it's not spoken aloud. Things that used to feel tolerable now feel suffocating. Conversations that once entertained you now leave you drained. Situations that used to seem harmless now feel heavy. And yet, this isn't overwhelm. It's awareness. The veil is thinning, not around the world, but around your perception of it. At times, this shift makes you feel alone. You'll crave honesty in a world that thrives on masks. You'll long for depth in a world that celebrates the superficial. But don't mistake this longing for isolation. It's a calling. You're not being separated to suffer, you're being refined to recognize. The universe is training you to feel the difference between what's real and what only appears to be. And as this training deepens, your inner compass sharpens. You begin trusting your instincts more. Not because you've gathered more data, but because your body is now speaking louder than your fears. You no longer explain why you walk away from something that looks fine on the surface, but feels wrong in your soul. You don't argue with your intuition anymore. You honor it. And with that honoring comes a new kind of self-respect. A reverence for the inner voice that's been whispering truth all along. This new sensitivity doesn't just show you what's wrong. It also leads you to what's right. You start stumbling into conversations that feel healing. You walk into places that give you peace. You say yes to ideas that resonate deeply, even if they don't make sense on paper. It's as if your inner world and outer world are beginning to match in rhythm. You're no longer navigating life based on logic alone. You're moving by energy, by resonance, by trust, and that's what alignment looks like. It's not perfection. It's not constant clarity. It's the courage to feel deeply, to honor what feels true, and to follow it. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when others don't understand. You are being prepared for something that cannot be built on surface-level living. And this sensitivity, this spiritual calibration, is the universe's way of making sure you'll recognize what's meant for you the moment it arrives. As you become more attuned to what your spirit can feel, even before your mind can explain, you also begin letting go of anything that feels halfway. You can no longer tolerate lukewarm conversations, half-present relationships, or commitments made out of convenience. The energy of almost becomes unbearable. You're not being difficult. You're not being picky. You're simply becoming precise. And that precision comes from clarity. The kind of clarity that only arrives after you've outgrown what once felt acceptable. This clarity sharpens your boundaries, not out of fear but out of reverence for your energy. You begin treating your presence as sacred. You understand now that not everything deserves access to your time, your heart, your frequency, and this isn't arrogance. It's alignment. You're no longer afraid to say no. You're no longer available for things that require you to shrink in order to stay. You've stopped asking, "Will they like me?" and started asking, "Does this resonate with my soul?" You even stop explaining yourself. Your no becomes complete. Your silence speaks louder than words. Because you've realized that those who truly feel your energy will understand it without needing long explanations. And those who don't, you're no longer chasing their approval. You're too connected to your inner truth to beg for understanding. You've stopped performing. You've stopped negotiating your essence. Because what's real doesn't need to be sold. This kind of internal alignment brings a new peace, a steadiness. You're no longer shaken by rejection. You're not devastated when things fall through. You understand now that every closed door is simply divine protection. That every silence is filled with information. That every time you're pulled back, it's for a reason. Your sensitivity is now your guide. And that guide is leading you somewhere higher, somewhere truer, somewhere you couldn't have reached by logic alone. You'll also start noticing how people respond differently to you. Some are drawn in without knowing why. Others quietly step away. You don't take it personally anymore. You don't see it as gain or loss. You see it as energetic sorting. What's aligned stays. What isn't naturally drifts, and you don't have to chase or convince. You just have to keep vibrating in truth. Because when your energy is clear, the world around you reshapes itself to match. And in this new energy, something powerful happens. You stop waiting to feel whole. You already feel whole. You're no longer hoping someone or something will arrive to make you feel complete. You've stopped searching for external proof that you are enough. Because now, you know, and it's not knowledge you read. It's knowledge you've become. And from that fullness, you now attract, not from desperation, but from peace. At this point, you begin to understand something sacred. The universe never shouts when it's building something holy. It moves in quiet, deliberate ways through pauses that stretch longer than you expected, through slow transformations that happen far beneath the surface. And you, who used to fear the silence, now respect it. You've realized that the loudest changes aren't always the deepest ones. What's forming inside you is not here to make noise. It's here to make meaning. This journey has taught you that sacred timing isn't always convenient, that divine alignment often arrives wrapped in waiting. And what once felt like delay, you now see as divine design. You've stopped asking, "Why is this taking so long?" and started trusting that what's meant to be rooted in your life can't be rushed. The universe isn't denying you. It's preserving you. It's strengthening you to become the vessel that can carry the blessing without it breaking you. You're no longer living for the breakthrough. You're living from breakthrough. Your very presence has changed. People feel it. Spaces respond to it. You don't have to announce your growth. It's felt in how you move, in what you no longer entertain, in the way you hold your own energy with grace and quiet power. You've stopped chasing. You've stopped convincing. You've stopped explaining. You simply are. And in that being, you've become magnetic to what's real. You've made space, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, energetically. You've cleared old patterns, dissolved outdated beliefs, untangled yourself from stories that once held you hostage. You didn't do it by force. You did it through truth, through stillness, through choosing presence over pressure. Now you walk lighter, not because life got easier, but because you stopped carrying what wasn't yours. You stopped proving and started remembering who you are. This alignment isn't something you achieved. It's something you allowed. And in allowing it, you've reconnected to your essence. Not the version of you that was shaped by fear or expectation, but the one who was always underneath, the one that never needed fixing, only uncovering. You're not becoming someone else. You're returning to who you truly are. And that return, quiet as it may seem, is the most powerful journey of all. Because in this space, something profound becomes clear. You are not waiting for your destiny to arrive. You are standing in it. Right here, right now. Not because everything around you is perfect, but because everything within you is finally aligned. And that alignment is the very signal that tells the universe you are ready. Not someday, not later, now. And now, with this alignment deeply rooted in you, something unshakable begins to rise. A quiet, grounded certainty. You no longer crave loud validation or dramatic change. What once felt urgent now feels unnecessary. You're not waiting to be rescued. You're not seeking to be chosen. You've chosen yourself. Not out of defiance, but out of deep, sacred acceptance. This is the moment where your energy stops whispering and starts speaking without a sound. You start to notice synchronicities. Little moments of alignment that feel too perfect to be accidents. A message arrives at just the right time. A door opens without you knocking. A stranger says something your soul needed to hear. You feel the rhythm now. You feel how everything is orchestrated, not to test you, but to deliver you into who you've always been becoming. This isn't coincidence. This is confirmation. You're finally aligned with the life that's been waiting for your readiness. Even in the quiet, even in the ordinary, you feel full. You stop chasing highs to feel alive. You find aliveness in stillness, in solitude, in moments most people overlook. You no longer need to do something grand to feel worthy. You feel worthy because you've made peace with who you are beneath everything you thought you had to be. And from that place, your life begins to respond differently, not through force, but through flow. And when people ask you what changed, you won't be able to name a single thing, because it wasn't one thing. It was everything. It was the way you no longer betray your intuition. It was the way you held your silence without shame. It was the way you chose peace over proving, alignment over approval, and wholeness over hustle. This change wasn't loud. It was cellular. It was soul deep. You now walk into rooms and take up space without apology. Not because you feel superior, but because you finally understand your presence matters. You've stopped dimming your light to make others comfortable. You've stopped minimizing your truth just to maintain old connections. And the people who can't meet you here, you bless them, but you release them, because your spirit no longer makes room for what dishonors your essence. What's coming next is not a surprise to your soul. It's a reunion, a sacred convergence between your highest self and your manifested path. The universe isn't about to give you anything. It's about to reveal what has been yours all along. And now that you are aligned, now that you are ready, the unfolding begins. Not in chaos, not in confusion, but in divine, undeniable timing. What begins to unfold now is not a reward, but a reflection. A mirror of the inner work you've done in silence. Opportunities start arriving not because you hunted them down, but because you've become the kind of person they were always meant for. People begin to enter your life who don't need explanations, who just get you. Not because you've changed your message, but because you've found your frequency. And now, your energy calls in what aligns naturally, effortless. The days of striving are over. You're no longer caught in the loop of proving your worth. You've dropped the mask of "I have it all together" and replaced it with authenticity. Vulnerability is no longer something you fear, it's something you honor. Because now you know real connection is built on real presence. And when you show up fully, without the need to perform, what's real begins to stay. And as more of what's meant for you finds its way in, you realize that very little needs chasing. You begin to trust life's pace instead of rushing its process. You begin to find peace in the unknown, because your inner world is no longer chaotic. Your foundation is not made of validation or control, but of stillness, presence, and self-trust. And that's why, when things slow down or shift unexpectedly, you don't panic. You pause. You listen. You adjust. You've become fluent in your own energy. You know what drains you. You know what expands you. You don't entertain what pulls you out of alignment. You don't cling to what only partially loves you. Your presence has become sacred real estate. And only those who come with truth, care, and resonance are welcome to build something with you, because you're not interested in temporary anymore. You're interested in what's built to last, what grows from depth, not desperation. And in this space, you've stopped needing to see proof of the future in order to feel peace in the now. You know it's coming, not as hope, but as fact. Your spirit confirms it every time you breathe deeper, move slower, speak softer. Your pace is not hesitation. It is mastery. You've stopped running, not because you've given up, but because you've finally arrived. You've entered the life that rises from within, instead of one that's pieced together from the outside. And all of this? It's happening because you said yes. Maybe not out loud, maybe not all at once. But your soul chose to rise, chose to heal, chose to trust. And the universe, in all its unseen brilliance, responded not to your words, but to your vibration. This is not the beginning of something new. It is the arrival of something ancient. A part of you that's been waiting patiently to emerge, fully formed, fully whole. There's a quiet power that lives in you now, a strength that doesn't shout, a confidence that doesn't compete. You're not interested in being the loudest voice in the room. You're interested in being the most rooted. And this rootedness, this sacred grounding, is what makes you magnetic. Not because you're seeking attention, but because you've stopped leaking energy. You've sealed the places where you once gave away your worth for free. And in this new vibration, things start to reorganize on their own. What used to take force now unfolds with flow. What used to feel out of reach now feels inevitable. This doesn't mean life becomes perfect. It means you no longer need perfection to feel at peace. You've anchored yourself in something deeper than outcomes. You've fallen in love with the process, the presence, the path itself. Because now, your journey is no longer just about arriving. It's about embodying. The people who stay in your life now are not there by accident. They're not attached to your performance. They're drawn to your presence. You no longer beg to be seen. You are seen by those who recognize your spirit. You no longer twist yourself to be palatable. You speak with softness and truth, knowing that the right ones will feel it. You've stopped striving to be chosen. You've become the chooser. There's freedom in this clarity, the kind that allows you to walk away from almost everything that once consumed you. Your self-worth is no longer dependent on how much you do or how much others approve. It's anchored in your being, your truth, your alignment. And because of that, you don't rush anymore. You don't grip. You don't chase. You trust. You trust that what is real will remain. You trust that what's meant will make itself known. And the most beautiful thing is, you're not waiting for something outside of you to validate this shift. You feel it in your breath, in your stillness, in the way you move through life now. You carry yourself differently because you finally see yourself clearly. You're not waiting for the world to mirror back your worth. You know it. You embody it. And that embodiment speaks louder than any words ever could. You've become a space of welcome for what is whole, what is sacred, what is true. The chaos no longer calls you. The noise no longer distracts you. You've stepped into resonance, into frequency, into divine alignment. And because of that, you don't just attract what you desire. You become it. You become the living expression of the life your soul was always meant to live. Now, something sacred begins to reveal itself, not in a flash, but like morning light slipping through the curtains. You look back at everything you've been through, and somehow, instead of pain, you feel understanding. You no longer flinch when old memories rise. You no longer tense when you revisit moments of heartbreak. There's a quiet compassion now, not just for others, but for yourself, for the person you were, for the choices you made when you didn't yet know what you know now. You stop trying to rewrite your past. You don't need to. You see it differently now, not as a series of missteps, but as a sacred syllabus. Every closed door, every tear, every stretch of silence, it was all a part of your preparation. The universe wasn't punishing you. It was preparing you, breaking you open. Yes, but only to fill you with more of what is real. The weight you once cursed now feels like it made you deeper, not smaller. It didn't destroy you. It shaped you. This clarity brings peace, a kind you can't fake and can't explain. You no longer wake up needing to fix everything. You no longer obsess over who stays or who leaves. You don't need everyone to understand you. You understand yourself, and that understanding is enough. You're not desperate for closure. You're not clinging to answers. You've made peace with the parts of the story that never got an explanation. Because your soul knows, peace doesn't come from understanding everything. It comes from releasing the need. You also stop replaying your mistakes. You begin to forgive yourself, not because you want to forget, but because you're done punishing yourself for growing. You see now that every season served a purpose, even the ones that cracked you open, even the ones where you lost your way. You're no longer embarrassed by the process. You honor it because it brought you here. And here is no small thing. Here is sacred ground. From this place of grace, you begin to move differently. Not to prove anything, not to escape anything, but because you are being led. led not by fear, but by presence, not by urgency, but by rhythm. You start to notice how effortlessly your next steps appear, not because you're forcing them, but because you're listening. You've learned that clarity doesn't scream, it whispers, and now you're quiet enough to hear it. And what you hear now is this: you are not behind. You are not late. Nothing you've lived was wasted. You are standing at the intersection of everything that has shaped you and everything that is still to come. And you are ready, not because the world says so, but because your soul does. And that kind of readiness cannot be taught. It must be earned, through silence, through surrender, through alignment. And now, as everything within you aligns, a final truth settles gently across your heart. You no longer have to chase what's already yours. You've remembered the ancient rhythm, the one that calls things toward you when you become still enough to receive. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to run to arrive. You simply need to stay open, stay present, stay honest. Because what's meant for you isn't searching for the loudest version of you, it's seeking the truest. You begin to live from vibration, not validation. From alignment, not ambition. You are no longer moved by appearances. You are moved by energy. You trust how something feels more than how it looks. You no longer ignore the subtle knowing within you. You no longer override your instincts to make others comfortable. Your truth has become louder than their expectations. And that quiet boldness, the ability to honor what resonates, is your superpower now. You're not perfect. You're not trying to be. You've stopped measuring your worth by how productive you are. You've released the belief that you must earn your place in the world. Instead, you've remembered that your very being is the offering, that your presence, when anchored in truth, is more than enough, and that nothing truly aligned will ever ask you to betray yourself in order to be accepted. Now, you walk differently. You move with intention, with softness, with certainty. Not because you know every step ahead, but because you've learned to trust the one you're on. Life no longer needs to be loud to be meaningful. Now even your silences carry depth. Even your stillness radiates purpose. And from that depth, the next chapter begins. Not with force, but with invitation. Because what's coming isn't just something good. It's something sacred. It's not arriving to fix you. It's arriving because you've already been doing the inner work to meet it. And that meeting won't be frantic. It will be familiar. Because your soul already recognizes what's on its way. Not as a miracle to beg for, but as a promise being fulfilled. You are no longer hoping from a place of lack. You are receiving from a place of fullness. And that, beloved one, is the difference. The universe isn't responding to your desperation, it's responding to your resonance. You're not being delayed, you're being fine-tuned. You're not behind schedule. You're right on divine time. And if your heart swells as you read these words, if your spirit leans in and says, "Yes, this is me," then know this: the shift has already begun. You are no longer waiting to become. You are already becoming, and everything you've prepared for is already on its way.